been who now knew how many days since our group had set out into the wilds. The memory of home was ever fading in our minds as the cold winds bit at our skin, even through the layers we had bound ourselves in. On the horizon we saw the shadow of a great storm and pushed on, hoping to find shelter before it hit, and we were cut off completely from salvation and each other. Behind us and ahead of us we knew nothing of either fate. If others were faring better than we were, as more than just our supplies began to dwindle to nothing, the possibility of turning on each other was as certain as being ripped apart by anything else we would come across out here in the misty darkness. I could barely hear my own breath as I trudged on through the thick carpet beneath my feet, white and hard-packed to hinder me and disguise any path that may have been present. This was why I at first was unaware of my attention being sought by my companions. Through my hat and hood and the sound of the wind, it was near impossible to not feel as if I were travelling in isolation. Then a tight grip brought me to the reality, and I looked with increasing recognition into their faces and followed the line of where they pointed. Could it be, finally, refuge, or was it some mass hallucination brought on by the harsh conditions we had been facing? I blinked. Those fading memories stirred in my mind. A warm, roaring fire, delicious foods to consume, refreshment to soothe sore throats. Were all these things about to be possible once again just steps ahead of us? A tentative relief flowed through the group. Someone had to have been keeping count as to how long it had been since we had been truly inside an actual building, and we were all more than ready to be inside now, to take off the layers for a while and rest. We were weary, and sleep had been just as forgotten a thing as home had become. "Come on, lads, let us endeavour to secure this place for the night," I hollered above the commotion of Mother Nature's fury. Everyone's pace quickened despite their exhaustion, and soon we came upon what was an ample enough sized hut to accommodate us. This was a sight for sore eyes, a welcome surprise. I turned to the sound of the voice with a smile, nodding my agreement. Soon enough everyone had found themselves a role to undertake, not a one of us thinking as to if this cabin that was built in such a desolate part of the world was anyone else's home but ours right now. All the tasks completed, our now much merrier group sat down together on as many of the available chairs as there were, or on the floor, and began to talk about the journey so far. It has all been worth coming this far, has it not? Just to have finally found somewhere that wasn't a barely covered cave or a hole in the ground for the night, said Cutter, who had left behind at home one beautiful, still young bride with child on the way to come with us, not knowing he would ever return to meet that child. I reached out my own hand before any of the rest of the group could in reassurance, nodding. "Yes, young Cutter, and I will do my very best to keep the promise I made to return each and every one of us back to the arms of those we love when this is over." He returned my smile with renewed confidence that I was not misplaced in me. "How are all finding the grub then?" another voice piped up. This was our group cook. Affectionately we had come on our travels to have been nicknamed Stewpot for his old, but his name, as I recalled just then, was actually Tom's. He had been brought along for his cooking expertise, as he had run the kitchens at the public house back in our home village, and had always come up with such excellent meals from that which he expertly hunted down himself nightly in the woods behind our houses. Would need his hunting skills every bit out here as his skills at cooking what he caught. There was no safety out here in the barren wilds. We all voiced our approval to good old Stewpot on a too long-awaited cooked meal. Eating what we could raw so far on our journey had only heightened our troubles. We had not found this place when we had, some of our party may have soon become ill, and we would have been forced to go on without them. Too right you approve, Tom said, and we all laughed heartily. No finer fare could be cooked up in all the world by any other than by you, Stewpot, and anyone who begs to differ can take their chances back out there in the chill air, I replied through my laughter, slapping him on the back. What do we think is out there that we could not handle? Asked Cutter, and the laughter abruptly came to an end. Do not be fooled into believing that there are not worse dangers out there than just the wind and the storms. Nature has much more savage beasts than we could even begin to imagine, just waiting to end the travels of each and every one of us who imagines we can move without an ounce of fear through it, I said, looking him straight in the eye, whilst every face turned to look at me. He knows of the savageness of this land, piped up Tom's, of the beasts that roam, the snows that bury, the wind that whips. You do far worse than to pay heed to this man's tales, for he is the most well-travelled amongst us, laddie, and no finer guide could we have than he. Cutter looked as all men as young as he might look at me, in total awe as to what story it is that I could tell if I so wished. But having been out here before in search of the very same help that I now had companions to help me find, seemed eager that I might tell such a tale now as our meals settled in our bellies, but I was tired and did not wish to whip up fears and nightmares in the minds of these young men as they prepared to lay their heads out for the night. Simply gave a small shake of my head and patted his shoulder. Those are not the tales for bedtime, Cutter, not by a long chalk. Turned his head to lay down himself, not quite quickly enough to hide his disappointment from us all. He exchanged glances with Tom's. Soon enough I was sure Cutter would have tales of his own with which he would hopefully return to tell his own kin. Much comforted in my surrounds and full to bursting, I laid down my own head full of dreams and closed my eyes. From what felt the very darkest depths, I rose to the sounds of commotion that at first I took to be from the storm having broken all around us. Certainly the wind was whipped as hard as Stewpot had described to Cutter it had in my own previous adventures, but upon opening my eyes and ascending to my feet, I discovered that the weather outside was not our only problem. It appeared that my group and I were no longer alone in our little home away from home. I say again, who are ye, and how do ye come to be in my cabin, you thieving horde? I held up my hand to try and placate the stranger whose abode we had clearly trespassed upon in the night. Sir, I know not what has transpired between yourself and my men, but up to the point of my arising from my slumber, but I assure you that none amongst us were aware of this cabin's occupancy, nor are one amongst us aware that we have thieved a single morsel from anyone. The man straightened ever taller, a thing that I did not imagine possible, and continued to hold his blade out towards us in suspicion, his expression softening not at all as he took us in all. The fact will remain, sir, whether you have prior knowledge of this cabin's occupancy or no, that you have taken an unfair advantage of its proximity and stolen as if out of my very mouth enough for all of you that would have lasted me solid months out here, he replied. How do you expect to compensate me? It took the time it was going to take me to think of how we would make it up to this man who we were unaware lived out here in the middle of nowhere to take in his appearance. He was already quite tall without having straightened himself up still further, and fairly broad from having been the sole person eating the wares of his pantry up until now. Clearly he was strong and could overpower as much as Tom's could on a hunt, if not even heavier beasts. He was not as clearly shaven as we were, though our own fleshes were sprouting whiskers at varying degrees. His own beard was much more well established and not well trimmed. His eyes were too narrowed in suspicion for me to make out a colour, but his bushy hair and beard were fiery auburn brown. He was made to look every bit bolder, as I am sure we ourselves had by the layers he was wearing to keep out the cold. Outside, I know not if he thought I was sizing him up to see if I could take him if it came to it, but he tightened his grip on his knife as if silently challenged me that I should try if I thought I was brave enough. In this instance I knew that I was not, and wished only to get out of this situation with words, not fists. I could say as to if my companions thought as I, but none of them made a move to try either. I am sure, sir, if it is monetary compensation that you desire, there are enough of us here to pull some together to give you for having eaten a large amount of your stored supplies. All those of us amongst us who are the better at hunting could join you at tracking something down to replace what we ate, finally offered to our quarry. Something in him seemed to deflate slightly, and I felt it was a disappointment at not having been assailed by myself and of my party, but offered a peaceable alternative of money or hunting. There will be no hunting tonight for everyone. The storm has broken merrily about these walls, and the sight is blocked in all directions to a single savage to fell, he told us. Then, as it appears you have become somewhat unfortunately encumbered with guessing your home, perhaps an exchange of identities is required, I said, offering one of my previously held up hands out by means of offering up names. My name hereabouts amongst anyone who has come across me has become to be known as Wolfsbane, though that is no the name by which I went when I too set off originally on this most treacherous of paths. The open-haired man proffered, then raised his eyebrows in inquiry as to mine. Back where I come from, many including these fine men you see here before you refer to me simply as Willis, I replied, and our hands met in strong greeting. Soon he had met Tom's and learnt of his nickname too, and Cutter, the young newlywed, and the rest of my strong but exhausted party, and conversation once again struck up. The blade now returned to its sheath. I reckon it would not be much of a hazard of a guess as to how you came about the name Wolfsbane. I've heard the so far distant cries of the children of the moon myself many a time on my journey to seek help for my own, I said. Only a fool's ear would imagine those cries were at such a distance. The storms and winds distort the house and mix them with their own to give us all a false sense of security. Until too late the arising clears and the hapless are set upon. You have to have wits and then some about you as the snows and fog descend. Wolfsbane warned, his eyes flickering the longest upon the inexperienced Cutter. Judging by your floor covering, not to mention your given name, not many of those have managed to get a taste of you, Cutter responded, trying to sound braver than perhaps he felt under the scrutiny of this giant. You'll have never catch sight of any scars I have received, John Cutter. Never underestimate them, or it will be your downfall, as it well may have been mine many a year ago. They are quick and crafty because they are forever ravished out here, hunting just as hard as I do for their next meal. Make sure you never become it, any of you, as it will not be quick. They will relish every second. I watched Cutter try to hide his fright and swallowing, as he was addressed so directly about what lay out there, much closer in the storm to the door than any of us could imagine, if what our guest said was true. Did you have a family back in the village you travelled from, Mr. Bane? Cutter ventured when he had recovered himself enough to speak again. Aye, there was a family back there somewhere to begin, to which I belonged, lad. A wife and children, so long ago now it seems that they have likely given me up for dead. If word had not got back to them of a wild man living out in a cabin in the nowheres, hunting the hunters, no doubt as young and beautiful as she still was, she would soon have found another to call husband. I am quite accustomed to this life I live now. See no reason to go back and shake up whatever happy life those in my past have created for themselves, and neither would you if you remained out here long enough. You're not a very jolly man, are you? Another of our party, one not as youthful as Cutter, but one who oozed optimism at every step of his journey, no matter how dire it had looked. We all, including Bane, turned to look at him. I thought that he would shrink back under our gazes, but he just sat steadfastly awaiting an answer. Once upon a time when I first set out, I would have been the jolliest, a song in my heart, as I was sent out on my way by my loving long-lost family. Not a fear or a care would bother me, as I see it does not at present bother you, but the passages of time rob hope from even the best of us, and too long have I been out here to have any jolly left to be. It has only been me and the rarest of companions like yourself, except for the wolves, for many a day and night now, being told its questioner. I turn to bait myself now. A fine green picture you have given us all to send on us on our way, once the storm abates, my good sir host. A fine green picture indeed. Shall all of us be much of the most alert kind about us with these warnings in our heads of flesh-hungry beasts in the mist, to which it smiled a naturally joyous smile, and stood to depart us, heading to his bed and leaving us to make our own decision as to what we would do with ourselves, armed as we were with this new knowledge of the way ahead. When Bain returned from his slumber, he found his living space devoid of companions, and we had slipped away into the mid-morning light and continued on our way to find people who would be of much more help to those of us we had left behind at home than he would clearly have turned out to be. We hoped he would not be insulted by either our quiet departure or the compensatory monies we had left for him for stealing from his stores. Try to imagine if he would feel any sense of loss at us being gone, or if it was more likely to be relief. Either way, even if the storm had not begun to move away, we had to go, as we had people relying on us. Cutter had taken to travelling in line with our optimistic friend and Stewpot, both of whom he clearly felt way safer with than me, who I imagined he thought us of as being seasoned in the ways of out here, just like Bain was, and far more a dangerous person to walk beside. Alone, I looked inwardly to my own mind and memories of my previous explorations, trying to recall if I had ever come into contact with these most feared of wolves that could sneak so silently upon you and rip your throat out so slowly, suffering your agony as you were bled to death whilst they ate you. If there had been any such encounters, I had buried them deep within a subconscious where even I could not retrieve them. So horrible a way to go it must be that no living man would want to revisit it. Willis, will night not soon fall upon us in these here parts that we must seek shelter anew? A voice broke into my struggles to recall possibly lost memories. I saw that it appeared to be now much later in the day than I had thought. Had we lingered longer in Bain's cabin than mid-morning? I had become so disorientated to times of day out here that it was now already almost night again. Had we been following the storm, and it was actually that darkening the sky ahead? Could not see anything ahead of us where we could shelter, no caves nor holes in which we could bunch up, no idea how far we had travelled, nor had I any intention of taking Cutter and his new friends back into the grasp of Bain the wolf killer. Feeling increasingly at a loss to be a good leader, as I took my friends further out on this journey, could not have done alone, nor this time anyway. This distance I may have travelled was much further than I had ever been before. I had never even come across an isolated cabin accommodating a joyless hunter before. Everyone had seemingly stopped, and I was aware that this was because they were waiting for leadership from me. The faces were all inquiring expressions, yet I could see only exactly the same darkening horizon as they could, and I was every bit as stumped as to what to do now as they were. My eyes opened from a dream. We had found somewhere somehow to camp down for the night. It had been somewhat of a miracle, and we had simply had to continue to walk until we at least found another hole in the wall in which we could all fit ourselves and our possessions. I lay now in the semi-gloom, the dream lingering around me like a web. Could not quickly forget the feeling of being followed that the dream had left me with. There had been something hot on my trail, our trail, something that had been there in the shadows for many a day, keeping out of our sight in the thick snow as it fell around us, hiding its path, but not ours. We could not escape it, whatever it was, this ghost of a figure that could tower above us as Bain had tried to tower above us. My waking thoughts and my dream intertwined into fearsome images, and the whole world at least showed itself to be somewhere I should not have ventured into myself, let alone brought a band of innocents along too. There was a sense of dread that we would not all make it where we were going, at least not make it back to. My eye fell upon the likes of Cutter and the optimistic one whose name I had since learned was Stride. My eyes had adjusted to the darkness. They looked so peaceful but so out of place here amongst us. I could get these young men killed out here by any number of beasts by having allowed them to come along, and if I made it back myself I would have their loved ones to break the news to. Did not want to return to break hearts. All about me in my woken state could hear the steady breaths of the for now living people who had volunteered to accompany me to get help for our own. I imagined their hearts all slowly to stop as they were taken one by the wilds, with nothing I could do to save one of their souls. Sat up, trying to shake from my head these nightmarish visions and auditory hallucinations. It was the very wilds themselves that were making me have these visions. I would not let them defeat me on this journey. They would not finally get me when they had never gotten me before. The cave was claustrophobic. I needed to go out into the biting air and recollect myself. For the sake of everyone here, it would do not one of them any good for their leader to succumb with craziness. Who among them would have to take over the battle? I could not thrust this heavy burden of mine upon these men. Keeping my sense of dread to myself, I and my party set off once again as soon as possible in the morning light, continuing our journey to find those who had left before us and settled in other places, much as the men who had come to be known as Wolfsbane had done, though I hoped that they, unlike him, had not settled in isolation away from each other and all civilization, the only company me ravaged patch of wolves. I knew that my companions had to be able to feel something emanating from me, as much as I tried to exude that a light air had not shaken off what I had been seeing in my dream, and my first few waking hours, and a feeling like that, no matter how well I might try to describe it, a way of seeping out amongst those a person was closest to. I was sure what Bain had said played too in the minds of at least Stride, Cutter and Tom's, as it did in my own. Should I join the three of them to converse with them about the very threat which may well have been on our trail, since either home or at the very outermost from Bain's cabin? Made to quicken my steps to falling in among them, and saw me coming and steadied their pace to allow me to catch up. "Something bothers you, Willis?" Tom's asked. Now I was afforded the opportunity so easily to find out if what plagued me was plaguing them also. I hesitated to make thought reality. I'm unsure as to if it's only a feeling put upon me by Bain's attempts to frighten, or if it is something all too real that keeps pace with us out there, I finally admitted. Neither are we. We should do what we all know is right and remain extra vigilant to the possibility of real dangers lurking. Tom's agreed more with what was left unspoken here than the words I had actually uttered. Looked behind me, away from our foursome, at the rest of our band of brothers in this mission, wondering if as much as was might be on our trail, many more had gone in the opposite direction towards our own home, and we would return to nothing but blood and chilled air. Could our village be as protected by those we had not brought along with us? After all, more of the like of Stride and Cutter had stayed behind than had hardier men like I and Tom's. The rest were women and children, none of whom we had ever thought to teach how to fight off hungry animals or any other threat, as we never imagined we would not be there to protect them ourselves. If the wolves did not get them, many might die out here from the lack of provisions there were. One of our main reasons for having to undertake this journey, something causing our crops to fail. Our soils were somehow poisoned by something unseen, and with curiosity in our hearts of all those who had joined me, we had set off to find out what. The night at first clear as crystal glass soon became as black as pitch. Shadows played a merry dance then. Suddenly, from out of the dark there appeared a pair of yellowed eyes, and the sound of an ominous growl. My breath caught in my throat, and I feared to move as the creature slowly revealed itself, jaws dripping as it salivated over a fresh meal. To run now would have been a foolish move on my part, so I rooted to the spot of the tree whilst he raised his nose to sniff me out. It seemed an eternity before he began to withdraw. His disappointment at being thwarted in his hunt was tangible in the air between us. Fresh wind was beginning to whip up. I knew my stillness could not protect me for as long as my clothing would begin to give my position away and restore its interest in me. Just then, and that first distant voice began to break on the horizon over the roar of the wind. My departing friend turned his head to relish the possibility of his time not having been wasted after all. My conundrum now was to be how to stand the alert, considering how close the ravaged beast still was to me, without becoming his appetizer. I no longer saw a choice in what action to take as I turned upon my heel toward the sound of the calls and bolted the savage animal hot on my trail. I was jolted suddenly awake and realised with some relief the whole thing had been another just as awful dream as the last. Once again the images lingered, the jaws dripping with hunger, the feeling once again of being chased or hunted in the shadows. The fear of what might be was great enough in me, I hoped, for it to never become more than a nightmarish dream, but knew that out here, especially with the warning still loud and clear in my head, dreams were surely not all they would remain. I remembered then the sounds of voices and realised that those had not just been in my dream. I was really being called upon, and from not so great a distance as it had seemed in my dream. I must have been making some noise or calling out myself in my visions, because at least some of the men were awake. It was one of these who had been calling my name. He was above me now, having been trying to shake me awake. "Are you all right, Willis? You concerned a number of us here. We took to imagine you were ill in some way, sir." The man inquired of me. He was one who for the moment I could not recall his name. Strides, Tom, and Cutters were easy to remember for having spent time and shared concerns with, but I had not spent much time getting to know much of the rest of the crew who had so readily agreed to join me, something I could regret later, once all the nightmarish visions had subsided. A nightmare, nothing more, something that I imagine will be par for the course for more than just me if this journey is to be as long as it feels it will. I hoped in there I started to hope that we will all be making it there and back again together, though I felt no conviction to that myself. The man sat back as if he felt some relief at finding out that I was not ill, and I hoped he did as I was leading them, and he himself may find himself becoming leader. Any one of them might, if something like illness were to overtake me. "Any idea, sir, Willis, as to how long you imagine this whole adventure is going to take? Surely soon we must come upon somewhere more helpful than the last place. We all agreed that man must not have been able to wait for us to be out of his home and his food store. This was a fair observation for someone to have made. Was I fooling myself that any part of Bain would actually have regretted making us feel so unwelcome? Part of this journey goes. I have as much of an idea as to how long it will be apart from home and loved ones as you do. I pray that it is not for much longer, but I cannot say that it will not be. That is the unpredictable nature of that which has befallen us, whereby we no more know now what lays ahead than what lies behind," was all I could respond. No point planting false hopes where I had none myself. If you don't mind my having to raise this, few of us were close enough earlier to understand what it is that may bring about your nightmares. We heard to voice the possibility we believe that something or someone is set upon our trail. We've agreed that if it is at all possible, we would like this adventure for some of us to be over sooner rather than later, or at the teeth of some furry monster. The man was brave enough to say to me I was sure that he spoke the truth, that many of them had indeed spoken together about what I had said, though it was clear to me in their silence that Stride, Thomas and Cutter were unwilling participants in any such conversation about what I had meant, and may have been cajoled into explaining, because they certainly did not nod along with the rest of the men. If a single one of you wishes to attempt to turn back, knowing full well any such beast will just as likely lay in wait behind us as ahead, and those men could take their chances upon their own heads, while the rest of us risk the rest of this adventure and try to save those we left behind where you so desire to return to without any knowledge of what it is that you will return to. I replied most curtly. Was not going to suffer fools sitting in fear over dreams and overheard conversations. We had come already too far for any direction to be safe, and I doubted even if he regretted our departure that Bain would welcome a single man back through his door to rest before continuing the harsh journey back home. The harvest had failed. We looked out across the frozen fields, our hearts sinking to our boots, eyes downcast. A frost had set in. A thin layer like spiders, silken wet, lay atop each and every crop, withering away with them even our own hopes of survival. In the night leading up to our decision to seek help, we met many times. Some of these men I knew better than others, whilst others would come because they were willing to risk their lives in the hope of saving all of those we would be leaving behind. Those of us who had some experience of travelling even a short distance outside of our village questioned how well they would do out there quietly amongst ourselves. But even we knew that we would still need every single person who was willing to go along. Said our goodbyes to our loved ones, setting out into the biting unknown, a ragtag group of men as we were. Every single man was made aware of the lack of guarantee of return to the warmth of home. It was with that knowledge that we began our journey into the wilderness. This might sting a little. The power of your words with needle-like precision direct into my younger heart. Those were the hazy days. Opportunity felt stolen away. Can you see me now, fixing what you broke? The lies you spouted to make yourself feel so tall above me on your pedestal. I come out fighting, even when my confidence has crumbled to the cracked cold floor. What's the point in breathing if you're giving up? Close your eyes and jump. You could only fall or fly. You'll never know if you've never tried. Look in the mirror and tell myself, it's all right. Even the greatest need the shoulders on which to stand to rise. What makes you different is your kind. No one else as unique they'll find. Reach for the ladder. Climb.